Hello, welcome. Thank you for being with us. I'm Angelos Valianatos, and our subject is using CDC, which means Competences for Democratic Culture, in planning lessons. It's always good to improvise, but is there a basic recipe? Yes, there is. This form of the recipe, let's call it Math Schnitzel. It needs 30 minutes to prepare, and the servings are one primary school class, and the students are aged 11. What do we need? What are our ingredients? To make a good schnitzel, you need meat, 1 piece per person, flour, measured by eye, this is a traditional way of measuring, eggs, 1 egg per schnitzel, breadcrumbs, some breadcrumbs, salt, pepper, parsley at will, according to the taste, and cucumber salad to decorate it. But the math schnitzel needs math intended learning outcomes, 1 piece personalized, we'll talk about it. You need RF CDC measured by eye, competencies 1 per cluster, descriptors 1 or 2 per competence, no more, personal competencies at will, and decoration by imagination. Let's go on. It's called mise en place, and we'll put everything in order. We take the math issue. It is primary education, our students are 11, it's algebra, the unit is numbers, and the intended learning outcomes are that students on the completion of the lesson will be able to do several things, one of which we will cook. It is formulate and solve problems with more than one operation, checking the rationality of the result. Let's go. In order to make it a schnitzel, to cook it, we need flour. And the flour is the reference framework of competences for democratic culture. We need to put this reference framework in order to make it good, tasty, and spicy. The fact is that teachers who themselves act successfully in the everyday life of democratic and culturally diverse societies will best fulfill their role in the classroom. This is when teachers themselves have accepted the RF CDC for themselves. More you can find on volume 3 of this educational tool. Let's go on. We need eggs, and the eggs are competences. The competences are formed in a butterfly that has 4 clusters: values, attitudes, skills, knowledge, and critical understanding. Values is the fundamental base for everything. This means that without those values we cannot, or it gives a totally different meaning to the attitudes, the skills, the knowledge, and the critical understanding. If we don't agree that we share those common values, nothing can work. The recipe will have totally different results and taste. Knowledge and critical understanding is something that I know now that I didn't know before. Skills is something I can sufficiently do now that I couldn't do before. And attitudes is how I am now that I was not before. This means that all those competences for democratic culture are a way to show me how I can do things in order to be more democratic, more democratically efficient. Then we have the breadcrumbs. And our breadcrumbs in this recipe are the so-called descriptors. Okay, we have the butterfly. And we say that we choose in attitudes respect. But do we mean the same thing under respect? The descriptors come in order to clarify what is respect for democratic culture. Descriptors is a way, and actually they are behavioral descriptors, it is a way to check if what I have chosen is handy for me, helps me do things in a more democratic way, serving democratic culture. It's exactly what I need for my recipe. Those descriptors are behavioral descriptors, and they are divided in three basic clusters: the basic descriptors, the intermediate, and the advanced. All of it is in volume 3 of this educational tool. Okay, we have everything. Let's go on in cooking. Intended learning outcomes. We take a piece of intended learning outcomes, which is now for us formulate and solve problems with more than one operation, checking the rationality of the result. We take the piece meat, it's one per person, but it has to be personalized. This means that we don't just cook the meat as it is. We take the ILO and we form it according to the needs of the students. We form it in order to match our recipe, in order to make it more eatable for our students. But oops, here we have a pork schnitzel. The argument is not that pork is not the traditional meat for schnitzel, but the argument is that are all our students able to eat our pork schnitzel? This is the first outcome of dealing with CDC. We have the thought that we have to prepare something that everybody can do. So let's start from the beginning, just choosing a different meat. We take a veal this time, and being a veal does not make it absolutely suitable. So we have to repeat the process. We have to put it in a form, in a way that our students can understand it. It's fun to learn. It contributes to their knowledge. They can do it. They can enjoy it. And if knowledge is not enjoyable, well, it's less of a knowledge. Here we are, adding some salt, adding some pepper, in order to make it more interesting, more tasty, better. Then we pass the whole thing from the CDC educational tool, the theory. The thing is that the CDC approach would remake theory without properly educated and trained teachers. It's essential that teachers have it in their educational experience. Teachers are the only ones in a position to implement it in the field. This comes from the same educational tool. So what we do is that we pass our intended learning outcomes from RFCDC in order to cover it, to bring it in the meaning of what competencies for democratic culture are. Finished with that, we have flavored intended learning outcomes, and then we have to pass it through what we call the butterfly. The butterfly is the competences for democratic culture in those 4 clusters that we spoke about before. We have the intended learning outcome, which is to formulate and solve problems and check what the result is, and we pass it choosing which of the attitudes, the skills, and the knowledge and critical understanding suit to that. This doesn't mean less math. This means that math can be a vehicle in order to serve democratic culture through math. It just makes math more interesting, more spicy. So what do we do here? We have our ILO. Passing it from there, we decide that values cannot be neglected. All of them are in, but our intended learning outcome has relation to respect, to responsibility, to analytical and critical thinking skills, knowledge and critical understanding of the world. Those are the competencies that we think that match better to our intended learning outcome. So we take our piece, we put the egg, We put the butterfly, the competences, and we cover it, all of it, in order to take the essence of what we have chosen from the competences. Ready we are. And then we go to the next step. We have the descriptors. Working with descriptors and matching the suitable descriptors to the competencies that we have selected is a process. So we take the descriptors, they are all in volume 2 of the educational tool, and we prepare them. We just go through them. We see its behaviors. We see what of them is more suitable for us, is more suitable for our intended learning outcome. So we search, we take our time, we choose, we keep, we don't keep others, and then we are ready to pass our flavored and egged meat through this process. Let's have the example, the same example. From respect, we can choose give space to others to express themselves. From responsibility, we can either choose submit required work on time or shows that he or she takes responsibility for own mistakes. Well, under analytical and critical thinking skills, identifying similarities and differences between new information and what is already known is handy for our intended learning outcome. And about knowledge, can explain why everybody has a responsibility to respect human rights of others. What's the connection of human rights here? Look, formulate and solve problems. In formulating a problem, we can choose from a very simple, this is the one number and the other number, add them or multiply them or whatever. All the kids can formulate a problem that has their personal tradition, culture, experience of life. This is significant on the names they use. Are they only male, only female, both? Are they the more traditional names of our culture, other cultures? What is the scene that they create by formulating a problem? Things like that. So we are ready. We have chosen descriptors, and there we go. We cover, and it has to go all over, wherever it can go. Now we're ready. We have done the whole process, and what we need is to decorate this lesson plan. And the decoration is personal. It needs our personal competencies, our personal skills, our personal imagination. Because when everything is ready, then it's good to be also good inside. And this is the way that we use the competencies for democratic culture in a lesson planning. Bon appétit! Thank you.